And welcome to the Full Advisor Coaching Podcast with Kristin Harrod. Kristin, good to see you.
Hey, Bill, how you doing?
I'm well, thanks. I'm excited to as I am with most of the topics that you and I get into. I'm excited to get into this one. Yeah, I mean, they're interesting, quite frankly. And
this one's pretty cool because it came up again out of, as many ideas do, out of actual conversations with advisors, where I was doing some business development coaching with the team, and we were talking about the putting together their specific actions that they were going to take to do outreach. And one of the things that they were looking at is trying to find centers of influence or referral partners, depending on how you think about it. But, other professionals who can send business your way and you can send business to them. So it's kind of tried and true in advisor marketing and business development. And so the question came up, and what I was challenging the participants in the group was, well, how do you decide who to meet with and where to spend your time and in what way to engage with those people? So today I want to dig into this 3-tier system that I've developed, because I want to make sure that advisors who are listening who are pursuing a center of influence or referral partner strategy, which is a very strong strategy to pursue, protect their time and make sure they're getting the most out of the relationships that they're developing.
But I got to guess, in terms of where you're going, that we should, first of all, realize that not all partnerships are created equal, as it were.
That's the biggest takeaway. I think that's so important. And I think anyone who's ever gone out to coffee or said yes to a lunch and they were in the midst of that conversation, they knew it wasn't a good fit or they knew it wasn't going somewhere, is sort of saying to themselves, why am I spending my time? I had to drive here, parked car, couldn't find parking, found parking, got in, was running late. Now we're meeting. And then I'm talking to the person. They're not going to have anyone to send my way. I'll be lucky if I send a client to them. But somehow we've still spent an hour having this conversation, and now I got to go get my car, drive back home, and you're like, wow, that was 3 hours.
Yeah, that's 3 hours of my life I'll never get back. But
I know.
But we all do that. We all do that because nobody likes to say no to a potential meeting, right?
Right. And a lot of people are polite and generous and want to say yes, and it's not always the way to go. So
don't always say yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about no. I mean, it's almost trite in terms of coaching, right? To be like, well, it's just as important to know what to say no to as it is to say yes to. But you can't say it enough times, because this is an area where it is really important. And I think the key thing to keep in mind is, just because someone asks you to meet up, whether it's lunch or coffee or a phone call, it doesn't mean that you have to say yes. It doesn't mean that you owe it to them just because they asked you.
Yeah, but how do you decide when to say no, Kristin?
Well, isn't that the question? Yeah. I mean, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about a partnership hierarchy, right? So that you can have a way of approaching these types of conversations. And again, this gets down into leading your business and having a system around how you do it, so it's not personal, right? So you're looking and saying, okay, I have a system and a sort of evaluation criteria. And when I look at that, I can say yes or no, or not now, later is sometimes another way to do it. And so this is something that is kind of what we're going to break down today, right? We're going to look at these 3 different tiers, because as we talked about, one way to really waste a lot of time is to feel like you have to get out and talk to people all the time in person. And I talk about getting out from behind the computer, getting out and shaking hands and meeting people and being involved in your community. Right. But again, it comes back to who are the right people to be spending time with.
So how do you figure that out? I mean, how do you sort that through? Walk us through that.
All right, we're going to go through 3 tiers, right? So I'm going to tell you about the this partnership hierarchy that's worked really well. And if listeners want to follow along or want to work through this in more detail than we're talking about today, you can go to our website. I actually have a workbook for this. And it's called the Growth Acceleration Toolkit. In there, there'll be a referral partner guidebook that's going to kind of go into more detail on what we talked about today. I'm going to break down the 3 tiers today, but if you really want to get in there and assess and walk through the exercises, it's a great place to go. And then I also have a checklist in there, a partner assessment checklist. It's all part of this toolkit. So if you go to fulladvisorcoaching.com/growth-toolkit, and we'll put it in the show notes, you can sign up to get this toolkit. And that way you can kind of listen along today, hear what's going on. But in this case, you can then go through and evaluate your current partnerships. You can look to see where else might you be able to add a partnership, take away a partnership. It's a very hands-on practical guide. So I do encourage everyone to go check it out.
I've looked it over, and it is good. And if your listener do, go there and check it out, because you might find some really interesting material there and might pique your interest even further.
Yeah, and there's a few other guides in there too around content partners and media partners. So it'll expand beyond what we talk about today.
Right.
But the essential concept is that not all partners are equal, right? So if we try to treat each person who reaches out to us the same, we're going to have a full calendar and no referrals. So let's talk about the 3 tiers. There's tier 1, which is, as you might expect, the best tier, right? That's the growth partners, the really strategic people with whom you align. There's tier 2, which are your occasional collaborators. So we'll get into more detail, but that's people that are, they're good to have in the mix. They're good to have in your referral network.
Sure.
And then tier 3 is the utility relationship. So they may be a one-off partner that you might refer to for a certain need for a specific client. But what I want to do is walk through each one and give listeners a little more clarity on what I'm talking about. And I think you'll see pretty quickly where you might be falling short and spending too much time, and where you might have some opportunity. Okay. So tier 1, the biggest thing is that you have the same target audience, right? You understand the wants and needs of the people that you serve, and you have this mutual commitment to them. A big thing about a tier 1 partner is that they're also very engaged in business development and outreach. They are open to sharing referrals and having a reciprocal relationship. And they need to have a complementary service, right? So something that you would frequently go to. So you might have a tax strategist and CPA on hand. That's ideal. Like right now, a lot of firms are starting to actually integrate, a lot of wealth management firms are starting to integrate tax services into their businesses. But if it's not part of your offering and you have a complementary partner, that's fantastic. The issue that comes up a lot with CPAs, of course, is they don't always refer back. Right? So you got to find the strategic ones. Estate planning attorneys can be an excellent example. I have a client in the Midwest who they have an estate planning attorney who's down the hall from them, and they have almost exactly the same target audience. They have reciprocal relationship back and forth, very collaborative, very supportive. They co-market, they work together in many ways. So it's very cool.
That's
when
great.
I had my financial planning firm, I teamed up with an estate planning attorney because I worked with new and expectant parents and families with young children. So it was a time where you'd put your first will in place, you'd put your trust in place if you owned a home or had enough assets. Because you're having a child, you're starting to think about your powers of attorney, guardianship, all of those things. And you've probably never really looked at your financial plan and you were having a child. So it was a natural fit. And we collaborated and did in-person workshops together. It was one of my strongest ways of developing business was to do this collaboration with her. So these are the types of people you want to find. And importantly, you're not going to have that many of them, right? They just won't, because you're going to commit time to them. You're going to commit relationship equity to them, relationship capital. So it's, you want to handpick and have just a few that are really your go-to.
So
and
is this a case, I'm sorry, Kristin, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but is this a case of where you're not looking for more, you're looking for the few that equal more? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well said, yes. So we're thinking about, estate attorneys, CPAs, of course, but adjacent advisors like valuation specialists, business advisors, maybe a divorce attorney like we've talked about if you happen to have a specialization. And then also some non-traditional partners, which we'll get into in a bit. So again, we're looking for tier one. It's all about strategic partners, not, I'm building my social circle and trying to make it this as robust as possible. Right. These are strategic. They're co-marketing with you. They're understanding your audience, they appreciate your audience, they respect your audience, and vice versa. So anyone out there who has one of these is nodding and knows exactly what I mean. And if you don't, you're like, wow, that would be great to have. All right, let's talk about tier 2 and 3.
Okay.
And I think we were talking before this started, and we were talking about how it's hard to say no because you don't want to burn bridges, right? Like you're like, but someone's reaching out to me. I don't want to burn a bridge. What if I need them later? What if something comes up? And,
been there, done that. Yep.
Yeah. It's so hard. Oh. But you also have to that's where having kind of a policy in place or having this criteria against which you can measure or judge the fit is helpful. It's not about the specific person. It's about the fit. So a tier 2 partner is someone you might have an occasional referral to. They could have useful expertise, but perhaps something that doesn't come up that often. For example, it could be, say, a valuation specialist where maybe you don't focus specifically on business owners who are preparing to exit, but you have one that comes along and you're like, oh, we should probably have a valuation specialist or two in the mix. I'm going to call upon them once in a while, and there you go. Or a certain special, like family law attorney or a special attorney in some case. So these types of relationships are ones where advisors tend to spend too much time, right? Out of thinking, wow, they have such a good match. We should be able to exchange referrals all the time. And in fact, they might be in alignment. They might be great to tap into for some expertise here and there, send a client once in a while. But most advisors will spend too much time here when they're not actually growth drivers, right? These relationships aren't like, wow, yes, I can totally see the alignment. Here we go. They're useful and they're helpful, and you may on occasion send a client their way, and they may on occasion send one your way. But this is where you don't want to get trapped into too many lunches or coffees or extended conversations. This is where the calendar discipline kicks in. I think quarterly or maybe twice a year you meet up with them to keep it together, right? Quarterly might be a little much.
It might be too much. Well, I'm sitting here thinking, you've done things, you've talked in the past, early on in your podcast, you've talked about the value of niche, and that came up while you were talking about criteria. If you have criteria and you say, well, this is where my focus is, these are the people, this is my target audience, and these other people they do come along now and again.
Right.
It makes this a lot easier to make the discernment. You're not trying to discern on a case-by-case basis. You're like,
right.
This is where I go, and yes, occasionally this happens, so it's good to have them in my orbit. It's good to have these partnerships in my orbit, and I should stay in touch. And I think it's interesting. It's like a couple of times a year, 3 times a year, maybe. You touch base.
Yeah, and I think the mode at which you meet with them, like for instance, a tier 1, you want to be. And we'll get into what that looks like, get into a face-to-face meeting, you're sitting down or you're having, a planned session. Tier 2, if there's someone who you want to keep the relationship with, keep it a shorter meeting. Make it a phone call, not an in-person. Mm-hmm. Make it 20 minutes instead of an hour. Just try to hone that list and keep it warm, but you don't have to overinvest. And that's where an assistant can help you too, scheduling the right way, making sure that if that person, reaches out and says, hey, let's have lunch, you say, oh, my calendar's very full right now, but I'd love to have a call at the end of toward the end of the month. I have this day's open. I can do, a half hour on that day. Keep them on your mailing list too for communications. And if you're really advanced, you have a separate Centers of Influence mailing list that you send out and nurture. But again, that's like 3.0. So we'll come back to that. And then tier 3 partners, these are really transactional or situational. And really, they're going to usually what happens is they benefit more from you than you do from them if you do it all. Try to keep these to interacting with your team. Because if they start having direct access to you and chewing through your time and trying to meet with you, and really they're trying to get business from you more than you would ever think to engage them. And this one came up. I remember when I had my planning firm, real estate agents would reach out to me. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, new parents, they often are buying a new home. And so that's, I could see how that would make sense. But it was rare that I'd be like, oh my goodness, I have someone who really needs a real estate agent. It just didn't happen, but they were trying to, build their referral network. Yeah. And good for them. They're reaching out to influencers. And I always appreciated the effort.
Right.
And I always go, oh, good for them. They've got some hustle. They're trying to figure it out. It's just, up to me to say, I already know that real estate agents don't send people my way. Okay, I've seen that. I've seen it happen. I can keep them in the background, but it's not really as important, And it could be someone that they're on the list. I'm sending them mail.
Yeah.
If they're benefiting more from me than I am from them, they're going to keep reaching out. So I don't need to worry about it in that way. So you can say no or not now, or hey, I'm really busy. Can you reach out to me next quarter? It's better if you can kind of nip it in the bud, but I know some of us don't want to, and you want to keep it open. So
sure. Well, and I think this is where the whole idea of having criteria and knowing what your goals are and where your focus is, because it keeps it from being personal. It's not like, oh God, I really like them. I want to, I don't want to be a jerk. But it's not about that.
Right.
It's not about that.
And that's a great place where you can either you can have someone else on your team reach out or an assistant and say, hey, her schedule's really booked up right now. What I've done is I put you on our mailing list so we have you there. And if you have a specific situation where you need assistance, please let us know.
Sure.
Okay, so how do we build this tier one partnership? Because if you have limited time and you can only focus in certain areas, this is where I'd want you to find one or two really strong tier one partners where you're focusing with purpose and intention. And this is where you can be proactive, right? And look at your criteria and say, who fits this criteria? And then start to meet with people and build out this partnership sphere, if you will. So you have your criteria and you're starting to think, oh, for instance, I'm working with a client who's looking for divorce attorneys, family law attorneys in a certain geographical region, and who are more likely to be working with women. And I went in and helped her, and we went into ChatGPT, and I said, here's, I've done a lot of work with them, so there's a history there, but we also put in the criteria and said, find family law attorneys and divorce attorneys who specialize in working with women in this region. And we went and looked through, we got a list of, 5 or 6. And then we started opening the website, looking at them, saying, okay, what do these firms offer? Are they a good fit? And then she started her outreach to start meeting with them. So importantly, you don't want to you want to think, I know it's easy to be like, all right, I'm going to find the estate attorney or the CPA, but there might be partnerships that are outside of that realm that could be just as fruitful. I like to call them creative partnerships, therapists, executive coaches. A lot of my clients run on EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Okay. There can be EOS implementers. These are people who come in and help and influence businesses and help in that way. One I thought of just today when I was prepping for this was golf instructors, which is pretty far out there. But again, it depends on your audience and what the overlay is. The thing about these types of partnerships is that not only can you have fun collaborating with them, and engage. And if you have this is where it's so important to have the same target audience, but these people can also double as content partners. So if you have a podcast, you can bring them on the podcast. If you have a blog, they can contribute to your blog, and vice versa. You could be on theirs, and you can be submitting articles to their website. And that's one of the things you want to look for when you're evaluating people. Is you want to take a look and see, do they have a content platform? Are they actively providing education to their target audience? What does their website look like? What is the messaging like? Where are they showing up in the world? Because if they're active and engaged and sharing content and education, and you're the same, then you know that they're going to be open to a proactive engagement. I see this all the time. It's like, if they don't have any way, even for someone to come into their site and sign up for free information in exchange for a name and email address, if they don't have a lead magnet or a mailing list or something, and it's only about getting that consultation, then are they going to be that great of a referral partner? Probably not. So,
it's funny. You've been answering all and what you just said answered a question that was lurking in the back of my mind that I wanted to ask you. Which is when you identify your audience and you identify potential tier one partnerships, how do you sort through? How do you discriminate and focus on the ones that you think you would benefit the most from? And you just answered that by saying, hey. Do you do the things I do? Do you, are you active?
Exactly. And that's what's on that checklist I mentioned earlier in this session. It's like going through and saying, all right, how am I evaluating them? And then it's, looking to say, how engaged are they? Are they out on LinkedIn? Are they sharing? Are they commenting? What are they doing? And how does it overlap with your audience? So I think that's really important. And People often forget about that because they're so focused on looking for having the solution for their audience that they forget, like, hey, you're partnering up because there's shared reach. So how many people do they have on their email list? You'd have to ask them. You're not going to know that straight up, right? But are you on their email list? Have you signed up? Do you see what they're sending out? These are things you can do to start to assess and learn. And then as you're doing it, you want to reach out with intention and be proactive and say, hey, I see alignment here. I see how we may be able to work together. It looks like we have a similar audience. Would you like to spend time and, work through and see how we might help each other? Mm-hmm. And then you have a very clear meeting. And what I like to do with someone who responds, yes, that would be great. And some people do exactly what you do, where they just go, they can't say no, so they say yes. And then you meet with them and you're like, all right, this isn't a fit. But if you get a yes from a potential partner and you're going to meet together, put an agenda together before you go. Send it over and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking we can talk through in this meeting. Is there anything you'd like to add? And then when you sit down, you know how usually you sit down and you start chatting and you're like, it's the weather. Yeah. Then it's about what'd you do this weekend. And then you talk about your business. And then you kind of say, hey, it'd be cool. We have the same audience or we overlap. Okay, great. All right. Well, stay in touch. So we want it to be very clear. And if you're very professional about it, you set the agenda, you send it over. If, that way they know you mean business. You're setting an objective. This is what I want. Bill, I'd love to meet with you. And what I want to do is I want to see coming out of this, if we can figure out 2 or 3 ways that we can help each other moving forward.
Purpose and intention.
Yeah, exactly. You're setting the objective. You're saying at the end, we're going to have clear next steps. You're going to call out what you see as mutual opportunities. So you might be like, look, we both have podcasts. We're both out there. I think it could be interesting to talk about being guests on each other's podcasts. I see you've done workshops in the area. I'm thinking about doing one. Perhaps we could collaborate on those. And then during the meeting, you get their opinion on what they notice and what they see. And if they don't have anything to add, they're probably not, engaged or involved. They should be doing equal research and engagement to find out more about you. And then as you're meeting, you're talking about what are the clear next steps. And when you leave, make it very clear on when exactly you're going to meet again, right? What is the follow-up and how are you going to connect? It's just like any kind of prospect meeting, but it's with a partner. So always be very clear on the process and what the next steps are. So again, this gets back to being a system and a system that you can use. You don't have to be worried about, are you the deal maker? Are you the one out there? Is it a personality thing? No, it's all about you're following a system. You've set the criteria for a good partner. You've set an agenda. You've asked for a meeting. You've set an agenda. You've asked for their input. You meet. You come up with a clear yes or no. We're a good fit. Maybe not. Let's put it on the back burner. And then you move forward. Or you don't, depending on how it goes.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to ask that question. How do you know when you don't? What is it that lets you know this is one I'm going to have to at some point say no to?
Well, I think you can tell almost before you meet if you send over something in advance and ask for their input. But then some people are just really busy and they're like, you know what, I didn't have a chance to get to it, but I'll be able to talk through it when we get together. Then when you meet with them, it's really about the energy level. Are they excited about it? Are they seeing opportunity? Does it seem that they will follow through? Does it seem like they have a team in place who can help them? Are you meshing with them? Some people could be the absolute perfect fit on paper. You meet them in person and again, it's just like looking and talking to prospects. It's like, okay, perhaps not the best fit. And you can either essentially say right there, like, hey, it seems like we might be on 2 different paths, which is great. I'll keep you in mind.
Right.
Or you can move forward. And if you are a little worried about it, step away, and then you can send a reflection of, hey, upon thinking about this, I don't know if pursuing in-person workshops necessarily the right way to move forward, but I would like to have you on my list of people that I refer to and keep it the same, make it reciprocal if that works. Right. I mean, I think you'll get a good read if you're very discerning about the people with whom you meet. You will get a good read on that. You can always do a phone call first if you want.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and again, I think this is probably where it's useful to remember and reiterate the point. It's not about how many tier one partnerships you have. It's
right.
whether you have the right tier one partnerships.
Really solid one. 2, great. More than 3, it would have to be across multiple categories, and you would have to have a solid team behind you helping you. So yes, huge takeaway. You don't need dozens of them. A few of the right ones is the way to go. You're going to have more time then. You're going to be able to have better, high quality referrals that you can feel really good about. Like when you find that right person, you aren't worried. You just send people back and forth, and you're not worried, will that person be serviced, and they don't have to worry about you. It's really, really actually more fun that way. Yeah. So look, we all know that some partnerships don't work out, and it's totally normal. It sucks when it happens, because you might have your trust in someone and then it falls through, or they send you someone and you're like, this is just not a good fit. Sometimes you're surprised and you meet someone, you're like, wow, I didn't expect they would be that helpful, and holy smokes, they really were. And I've seen that happen. But when you're intentional and clear about what you're looking for, you'll attract in the right people. And, I think if I were to invite the listeners to do one thing, it would be to take a look at where you're spending your center of influence time, because almost every advisor out there has at least thought about this and acted on this, and audit all of your current referral partners or COIs. Are they a 1, a 2, or a 3? Just go with your gut looking at that, and give it, take that list and go, oh, God, I just spent, you can look at your calendar and look back and go, oh, I just had lunch with that accountant, and that's a 3. Why did I spend that much time there? And then someone else you might have had a 15-minute call with me, like, oh, I want to look more into that. I think that person's a 1. So do the audit, see where you are, and then figure out what the next step could be.
So you mentioned your
kit,
your toolkit. Remind people again
it is
where they
on
can
my
go.
website, fulladvisorcoaching.com, and there's a specific page. You can go to the resources page and it'll be there. But if you go to fulladvisorcoaching.com/growth-toolkit, all one word, growth-toolkit, it's right there. We'll have the link in the show notes. And again, you'll get 3 different guidebooks to evaluate partnerships. So content partner, media partner, and then this referral partner guidebook. And then there's a checklist to assess your partners. So it's something that you can work through, evaluate, and make more intentional choices around where you spend your time and energy.
And you'll be more productive, and it'll be more efficient, and you'll be glad you did. So please check it out in the show notes. Go there, check it out. The other thing you can do, folks, if you're listening to this for the first time, is hit the follow button. That way you'll never miss another episode when Kristin drops a new episode. And I would ask you, if you like the podcast, tell people about it. Let them know. Be a referral partner for us, if you will. Because word of mouth promotion is the best there is.
Absolutely.
So we thank you for that. So until next time, I'm Bill Tucker. On behalf of Kristin and everybody at Full Advisor Coaching, thank you for taking the time to listen today. And do remember this: you can go out today and make today a great day. Or not. It's your choice. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Full Advisor Coaching, the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the follow button so you'll never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can become a part of the Full Advisor community, visit fulladvisorcoaching.com. Remember, stay connected and get notified as soon as brand new episodes release. Click the follow button now. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kristin Harrod or Full Advisor Coaching.